There is this myth that in order to travel sustainably, we need to pay more money. So, in today's video, I want to challenge this notion and show you how we can travel on a budget and still be kind to our planet. So, I want to caveat this video by saying that there are sustainable brands that charge a premium just for being sustainable. So, you can think of eco lodges, but you can also think of other industries. For example, a lot of sustainable fashion brands charge a premium because they are sustainable, but it doesn't have to be this way. We don't necessarily have to buy from the most high end sustainable brands. I want to add a second caveat, which is that in order for a brand to be sustainable, they need to pay fair wages, they need to invest in the local community, they need to ensure that the community benefits, they need to make sure that they're using natural materials, local materials, and so forth. And they need to make sure that their supply chains are sustainable, which means that they are sourcing locally as much as possible, they are growing locally as much as possible, they're getting organic produce as much as possible, they're supporting biodiversity and conservation efforts to the extent possible. And when you factor all of this into the cost, it means that sustainability will be a bit more expensive than the cheapest thing you can find out there. So I'm telling you that we can travel on a budget and make sustainable choices, but this might not be like the lowest budget ever that you can spend. So just keep that in mind as we discuss today's tips. So I actually wrote down everything in this notebook that I want to share today so I don't forget any of these points. But the first thing is, when we go to a place, we can choose to use public transport. And this is more sustainable because public transport like trains, buses, trams, metro, subway, all of these have a lower footprint because they're shared transport, as opposed to hiring a cab or hiring a private car to drive around. And when we do this, we are more sustainable, but we are also saving money along the way. The next is what we choose to do while we are in a destination. So if we are choosing to spend a lot of our time walking, cycling, experiencing local neighborhoods with our own feet, whether that's pedaling a bike or whether that's walking, it doesn't cost us much money, or in the case of walking, any money. It allows us to slow down in our rhythm, but also in a way that allows us to make more observations, um, really get a chance to experience how people live there, and at the same time, not create any carbon emissions through that. So, another simple tip. Now, one way that I found sustainable travel to actually be cheaper is to stay longer in a place rather than try to pack our itinerary with everything out there. So this means avoiding too many flights. This means not taking even like too much transport to get around, but really staying in a place for as long as we have on our visa or as long as our leaves allow us. And because of this, I've been able to save a lot of cost staying long term in places or longer term in places than usual. Staying longer can allow me to connect deeper with the place as well. So, for example, in cities like Cape Town or even on the countryside in Guatemala, I've been able to stay for a month or 3 months. When you stay for a longer time, a lot of the places that you stay at are willing to give you a long stay discount, which is a great way to save money and at the same time be more sustainable. So, just piggybacking on that point, I think longer stays also can go really well hand in hand with off season travel. So, a lot of times we tend to visit places at the same time that everyone else wants to visit them. But if we have the flexibility to visit in off season or a low season away from the peak season, this can allow us to experience a place such that it's calmer, there are less people, we are sharing that experience with fewer people, and we can connect with locals in a more genuine way such that they are also relaxed and not overwhelmed with tourism. So in terms of sustainability, it's great, but at the same time it also saves us money because a lot of places tend to be much cheaper in off season, and especially if you go in off season and you stay longer, I think you can get really great deals, especially at family owned guest houses, local accommodations, homestays, depending on whatever kind of traveler you are. Now, food is a great part of when we are traveling. And in order to be more sustainable with respect to food, it's great to seek out food that is not just local, but it's seasonal, it's organically grown, it directly benefits farmers, and it's plant based. So, opting for local and seasonal food means that you're consuming something that's grown very near to you. Opting for organic food means that this food has been grown without pesticides, which is great for our body, but it's also great for our soil and the environmental health, and also the health of the farmers. And plant based food is sustainable because a lot of the emissions related to food are associated with meat, uh, specifically raising cows for beef and dairy. And this is because when cows burp or they fart, the methane that they release is highly potent, actually much more potent than carbon dioxide. Even though it stays in the atmosphere for a shorter period of time, it's extremely potent. So if we can include more vegetables, fruits, lentils, legumes, pasta, things like that in our food, and of course, try the local cuisine such that there are plant-based options, then this can greatly reduce our environmental footprint and also our suffering footprint, right? Because a lot of times when we are consuming meat and dairy, it might just seem like a simple dish on our plate, but at the back of it, there is a lot of animal suffering that goes on. So by seeking this kind of food, we are being sustainable, but this kind of food also tends to be cheaper because vegetables, fruits, lentils, legumes, these are some of the cheapest options that you can find. If you're shopping at a grocery store, you're buying from a farmer's market, even if you're eating in a local restaurant, chances are that the vegetable based option will be the cheapest for you. Now, one of the things I mentioned in my previous video was about inculcating habits that allow you to be a more sustainable traveler wherever you go. And one thing there was not using single use plastic bottled water. And I think when we talk about costs, this also feeds into that because if you have your reusable water bottle, you can fill it in, sometimes in using tap water, depending on where you are, and sometimes just in a hotel restaurant, in a local kitchen, in a homestay kitchen, and so on. And this doesn't cost you any money. And I know it sounds like a small cost to buy, plastic bottled water. When you actually add it up over time, over your many travels, it does add up. And I think the important thing is that it might be priced at like 10 rupees or 20 rupees, or less than $1. The actual cost of that plastic bottled water is much higher because of the environmental pollution it creates. And we talked about how it doesn't degrade for 500 years. And so this is one of the simplest things we can do to save money and at the same time be sustainable. And I think one last thing that I want to mention in this video is our choice of accommodation also determines how sustainable we are and how much money we spend. So, for example, if we stay in a large chain hotel, we will be forking out a lot more money to stay there to look for the creature comforts that we want. But instead, we can choose to stay in an independent boutique hotel, in a nice homestay. If we are a budget traveler, in an eco hostel or in an eco homestay, in a small family-run guest house. All these places tend to be way cheaper than like luxury hotels or even star hotels with budget accommodations. So this is something to consider as well. This allows us to immerse deeper in a destination, like we've discussed before, but at the same time be more conscious, have a better environmental and social impact, and at the same time save some money. So the next time you think about traveling, think about how you can make simple, sustainable choices without falling into like this propaganda of sustainability is premium, it's luxury. It actually applies across all budgets. And if we just make these conscious choices, we can travel more sustainably and also save ourselves money. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you've enjoyed this video, if it's given you some food for thought, and your own approach to sustainable travel. What are the kind of choices that you're making? What are the kind of choices that you're struggling with? Let's have a conversation. And in my next video, I'll most likely be talking about how it is that I turn my travels into meaningful stories and what is my storytelling process like. So if you'd like to listen to that video, make sure you subscribe to my channel and I hope to see you soon.